Alright, so let's see what he does. Voice of Saruman. Okay. His other options, let's take a look. He could start sending the Southrons and Easterlings towards war, which is quite reasonable, especially given that Gondor is already at war, and that area is going to be somewhat dangerous. He could also send Sauron to war, but that's probably actually a bad move, because it lets Magic Geek get Galadriel for free with that one muster die. So definitely, if he's going to send Sauron to war, he should do that as his last action. Using Voice of Saruman is... yeah, that seems like quite a reasonable move. So he's going to be able to combine that with playing a new Powers Rising with his event die, and that'll give him a great outlet for all those character dice to sweep through Rohan with an army of wargs. But let's see which Voice of Saruman he's using. Okay, he's upgrading units. So yeah, it seems like that's what his plan is, probably for those character dice. And then Magic Geek is still passing, of course, because you might as well. Certainly if you're going to move the Fellowship. Alija didn't do anything against the Fellowship on the first move. There's no reason to think he'll do so on the second. There's New Powers Rising. Magic Geek's not happy about that. It is a very good card. And he is, in fact, attacking the Fords. And I don't think he's going to need a combat card on this one. And I also don't think Magic Geek is going to want to play one. Yeah, there aren't any combat cards there. Alright, so Leah got one hit, none for Magic Geek. That's fairly normal. And surprisingly, though, he's retreating westward instead of towards Helm's Deep or West Emnet. So, that's interesting. I haven't seen that before, but I guess what it lets him do is that once Rohan's at war, he can move back to the Gap of Rohan or Fords and threaten Orthanc. And the reason that going to Fangorn or West Emnet doesn't allow him to do that as much is because that puts his army in the easy path of Saruman's army so that they don't have to waste time attacking him. He could potentially also try to meet up with a Gondor army, but that seems kind of far out. I've seen Dol Amroth troops go up to Fangorn before, but that doesn't happen every game. Okay, so Magic Geek decided to retreat to Helm's Deep instead of westward, whatever that region's called, which I think that seems like a more reasonable choice. I mean, that army's not going to do much, but it's probably going to result in another elite downgrade or one more hit. So, might as well. Magic Geek is now actually moving the Fellowship. Alright, that's probably a good move. And Oli is attacking Helm's Deep, which puts Rohan still not quite at war. Oh, interesting. So it appears that part of the reason that Magic Geek moved the Fellowship is that, well, let's count. It's to give him an extra range with We Prove This Swifter, perhaps. So right now, 3, 6, 7, 8. He's 8 away from Helm's Deep. That's still not quite far enough. I'm not sure where he's going to go. Let's see. Druathiar. Okay. So that's interesting. If he'd actually moved his army there, and Saruman had then left someone behind in the Fords of Isen, Magic Geek wouldn't really have been able to do that, because otherwise his gigantic group of companions would have been vulnerable to being taken out by an easy attack from the wargs, which would be pretty devastating. So maybe that factored into his decision, or maybe that's what he was thinking of earlier, is to move them there with the army, but then he decided against it. So Alija's playing a card, I'm assuming Great Host, so he can finish it in one round. Which I'm not sure I agree with that, because Stormcrow is a pretty good card when your opponent's going military. It's true that the companions are all appear to be going to Gondor, and he won't be able to use Stormcrow against Gondor, but probably the Fellowship is going to stay in Rivendell. And that means that he's going to be able to push the elves back on the track and kill that leader in the Grey Havens. So I think that'd be a better use of the card, and he probably doesn't need all those wargs, but this is reasonable too. The other thing about using this now is that he doesn't get to play it with the Witch King, and right now he doesn't really have any good combat cards left. So if he got the Witch King pretty soon, then not having this Great Host would be slightly sad. In any case, it appears to have been not that useful move, because he didn't get the other hit during his roll. So he has to go another round anyway. Alright, Helm's-Deep is conquered. That took a bit of die rolling, but just one more round, and Alija didn't take any more casualties. So Magic Geek is now actually splitting up his companions. There's a couple in Fangorn currently, and looks like to me like they're going to head towards Lorien, because there's Legolas there, and there's two of them, so Legolas is definitely going to Lorien. Merry or Pippin or whoever that is. Merry, okay. He's probably going to stay in Fangorn, but maybe not. And then in Edoras we have Gandalf and Gimli, and Dol Amroth we have Strider and Boromir, which makes sense, because those are the ones you want to get to Gondor. Okay, so Alija's now threatening Edoras with his army of wargs. And in fact, he's going to be able to attack Edoras, and this has prompted Magic Geek to muster an elite in defense there. And it looks like he's going to be able to hold that, because he's got 5 hit points there, and he's got 5 combat strength, because it's Gandalf the Grey and Gimli. And he's got 2 leadership. So that's quite a reasonable army versus those 4 wargs and 2 orcs. So he might not be able to fight them back completely, but he'll certainly survive. He's going to be able to retreat to Anorian. Okay, and Alija, rather than trying to attack head-on right now, is actually just surrounding Edoras by moving a guy to an Anorian to block off that retreat path, so that if Magic Geek doesn't do anything to deal with that, he's going to be trapped. Probably Alija won't even attack on his next action. He's bringing in 3 more Saruman regulars from Dunland. And once he joins those up with his army, if Magic Geek hasn't busted out by attacking Anorian yet, then there's going to be trouble. Although, I do seem to remember Magic Geek having Paz the Wozes, which he's going to be able to play to escape if necessary. And that seems like quite a reasonable use of it, actually, to sort of surprise Alija and consolidate his armies in one place, namely Minas Tirith. It's too bad for him that Alija did not send any of his Mordor armies out conquering yet, and it's still really quite well defended.